In my memory, my youth was marked by contrasting experiences. I had to endure my mom's daily tirade about how much she hated her job, even though most kids do the same thing about their parents' employment. The evenings were monotonous. Every time she got home from her job at the accounting business, she would toss her bag upon the kitchen counter and begin to cry. "Amanda, my boss said something that you won't believe," she would start, hardly removing her coat. "He was so bold as to cast doubt on my quarterly reports. I've been working in this field for 15 years. I could see my parents were different even though I was only 10 years old. As the manager of a retail business, Dad would only shake his head and continue to eat his dinner. There was no doubt that he was the down-to-earth type. Sarah, he would tell Mom in a soothing way that only served to exacerbate her anger, if you despise it so much, look for another job." Yet another job? Her lips would curl into a pout. "Mark, I am not interested in taking a new job. No job for me. Back at home, enjoying the life I've earned." Every time Mom started to complain, Dad would laugh, setting off a new chain reaction. "Do you find it amusing? Is the fact that your wife is unhappy something you find funny?" I trained myself to ignore them and concentrate on what I was reading or doing for school. However, after we received the call regarding Uncle Jerry, everything shifted. Clearly, I can still recall that night. While Mom was delivering her customary tirade of gripes throughout supper, Dad remained remarkably silent. With a simple "Jerry died," he set down his fork. "Mom," she said abruptly, "when did your Uncle Jerry show up? Did he leave anything behind, you know?" Dad let out a deep breath. His nephews were left his estate. I belonged to the group. There was a clatter as Mom's fork hit her plate. "How much is it?" 200,000. Following this, there was an ear-piercing quiet. The creases that had been on my mother's face throughout her life began to fade. Her eyes widened, and a smile that I had never seen before broke out on her face. She reached across the table and gently took his hand, whispering, "Mark, would you be able to explain this to me? That vacation home I've been mentioning may be ours, or—" "No," Dad abruptly ended her. "Do you recall how often you expressed a desire for independence? All right, now is our opportunity. I've decided to go out on my own." A company, an octave was raised by Mom's voice. "A courier service, though." He carried on as if nothing had happened. "I've spent years studying it. It could be feasible with this funding. Maybe you could leave your job and run it with me. It would be we who ran the show." Mom's look shifted from sadness to calculating to a mix of optimism and resignation. At last she spoke the word, "Fine, but I get to play the role of accountant. Plus, Mark, I will have my wish list of wonderful stuff when we start making money. Very pleasant things." Dad gave her a tight embrace and a smile. "Sure, of course. You had it rough for the first 3 years. While Dad put in many hours to launch his courier business, Mom took care of the accounting. After school, I would often visit the office and observe how they would take nothing and turn it into something. Even though the days were long and tiring, the atmosphere was full of excitement and possibility, which lifted my spirits and made it all worthwhile. After nearly 3 years, everything took a turn for the worst. All of a sudden, our lives changed when the business began making a substantial profit. Our little abode was replaced by a stately mansion in the most affluent neighborhood of town. Dad treated himself and Mom to 2 Mercedes. It was my mother, not our environment, that underwent the most dramatic transformation. Over breakfast one morning, she announced, "I'm done. Please accept my resignation, Mark. Working is no longer something I desire." As if anticipating this, Dad merely nodded. "Mine, darling. Another accountant is available for hire." My cereal almost choked me. In a flash, in the same manner, in the midst of perusing her phone, Mom grinned. "Melissa has returned from Paris, I see. Should I give her a call?" All of Mom's new friends were affluent businesswomen like Melissa, who spent her days window shopping and plotting her next getaway. One by one, her long-lost friends, those who had been there when things were normal, started to fade from her life. I began to accompany Dad to the office more often since Mom was undergoing a self-reinvention. I made an effort to educate myself on the company in the hopes of eventually taking over, but I never felt truly invested. As I observed my dad go over delivery routes one day, I spoke up and asked, "What if I told you I don't want to run the company when I grow up? My career goal is to become a dentist." His expression changed from dejected to elated. "Then what? Could you elaborate on that?" I went ahead and did it. I filled him in on my favorite biology studies, the dental procedures that fascinated me, and my hope to one day own my own practice. He was quite attentive, asking thoughtful questions and clearly interested in what was said. However, Mom was no longer spending much time at home. With her newfound companions, she was constantly on the go, whether it was to Aspen, Cabo, or the Maldives. I can't remember how many times I begged her to accompany me. "Mary, would you let me tag along on your European vacation next month?" I inquired as I observed her preparing yet another new travel bag. Even without looking up, she continued walking. "No, sweetheart. Vacations allow me to escape from, well, life in general. Family life can be draining, as you'll come to understand when you're older." I felt the need to mention that she no longer took part in family activities, too preoccupied with healing to notice. However, I only disengaged. "I don't see the point." She replaced my mom, who would often make chocolate chip pancakes on Sundays and help me with my homework, with this complete stranger who seemed more concerned with her expensive purses than her daughter. In the blink of an eye, I was preparing to leave for dental school in a different state after receiving my high school diploma. With the same meticulous care that he showed to every aspect of his life, my dad helped me move into my dorm and set up my room. Mom never showed up to assist with the transfer. She and her buddies were in the Bahamas to celebrate someone's new yacht. On Sundays around 7 o'clock in the evening, I would dial my home number. As soon as I would mention my classes, friends, or life in general, my dad would pop up on the screen, ready to listen. During dental treatments and anatomy classes, he would hunch over the camera, eagerly absorbing every word. When Mom did make the effort to join the calls, she would typically remain in the background, fiddling with her phone. It became second nature to us. I used to love our phone talks when Mom wasn't around at all. It was just my dad and me, and we could speak about anything and everything. Next, the call that altered the course of events arrived. "Amanda, Dad's voice sounded different on Sunday. I need to tell you something." Nothing could have prepared me for what he said next, though I could tell by his tone that it was going to be bad. "We have cancer. On top of that, it's hostile." A global tilt occurred. "What? No, it's not feasible. You are in good health. You—" After 6 months, perhaps less, he humbly interrupted me. "The business is being sold by me. You and your mom aren't qualified to operate it, and I'd like to have everything ironed out before." The phrase was left unfinished by him. That wasn't necessary. Those half a year flew by, while my father, my rock and greatest friend, withered away in front of my eyes. I attempted to divide my time between home and school. Good thing he sold the company fast. It would have been a major burden in his last weeks if he hadn't. Whenever anyone was looking, Mom pretended to be the doting wife while he swung from bed to bed. In spite of this, I was able to observe the cold, calculated expression on her face whenever she reviewed his medicine schedule or his business documents in the secret. In the peaceful slumber of a month following the sale of the company, Dad passed away. When it happened, I was still grasping his hand, went to a spa with Mom. Broadway would have been proud of the funeral. Mom sobbed uncontrollably, clinging desperately to her friend's arms as she struggled to stand. In her elegant black gown and delicately applied makeup, she resembled a bereaved widow. It was as if a switch had been flipped the second the final guest departed, though. Standing up straight, she blinked away her tears and made her way to the mirror to touch up her mascara. She spoke abruptly and professionally, saying, "That's done. The topic of finances must now be addressed." Unable to comprehend the change, I gazed at her. "Dear mother, Dad has passed away." She spoke without sounding unpleasant, but I know, honey, it's awful. However, lives continue. Imagine all the things we could accomplish with the proceeds from the sale of the company. I've been captivated by this breathtaking Spanish home. The will reading followed. The notary's office lacked the welcoming atmosphere of Dad's home. Mom tapped her polished nails on her leather purse as she sat next to me in a black designer gown, not the one she wore to the funeral, though. Longtime friend and lawyer Mr. Peterson cleared his throat and started reading, remembering Dad. Being of sound mind, he proceeded to drone on about the legal prerequisites until he reached the crux of the matter. The family house is to be divided equally between my wife, Sarah Thompson, and my daughter, Amanda Thompson. A halt came to Mom's tapping. Furthermore, I have established a trust fund for Amanda's continued education in dentistry, covering all expenses until the completion of her degree. By my side, I could sense the mounting stress in Mom's body. The remaining assets, including proceeds from the sale of the business, are to be divided as follows: 60% to my daughter, Amanda Thompson, and 40% to my wife, Sarah Thompson. Once again, the tapping picked up speed, becoming nearly violent. "This is ridiculous," Mom interrupted Mr. Peterson just as he was about to continue. "There must be some mistake." "There's absolutely no error, Mrs. Thompson," Mr. Peterson whispered. Mark was very clear about his wishes. Mom shifted her gaze to me, her expression one of cold, controlled compassion. "You must realize how unjust this is, Amanda, my darling. The investment in your dental education has already paid off, and you'd expect a comfortable retirement once you practice. It's me, your mom. To keep living the way I am, I need this cash. Maybe try spending less." Before I could intervene, the words flowed out. Her expression changed in an instant, going from empathetic to ferocious. "It makes no sense, considering all that I've given up for you." "Mom, what have you given up specifically? Work has eluded you for a long time. While Dad built everything we have, you've been on a perpetual vacation." I don't have to listen to this. She got to her feet and gathered her jacket and fancy purse. "When you decide to stop being selfish and ungrateful, you know where to find me." Mr. Peterson's diplomas were rattled by the forceful crash of the door that slammed behind her. "Your father was aware that this could occur," Mr. Peterson reassured softly. "He wanted to make sure you were taken care of." Weeks stretched into days. "Do not contact via phone, text, or email." An odd sense of tranquility pervaded the ear-piercing stillness. In an effort to make my dad proud and escape the thoughts of Mom's reaction and what it could say about her and us, I dove headfirst into my studies. As I studied dental anatomy in the wee hours of the morning, I reassured myself, she'll get over it. She'll calm down eventually. However, I had a sneaking suspicion that the notary's office had been creaking for a while. This couldn't be fixed using the knowledge, abilities, or science that I was learning to apply to the shattered bones and damaged teeth I was fixing in school. I came into it while aimlessly browsing social media during a study break. I was taken aback by what I saw at first. Mother, radiant and sun-kissed, embraced by a man no older than 35. I was choked to death by the caption that was under the photo. "Finally married to my soulmate, Millie Woods, #love wins." Clumsy fingers let go of my phone. I am married. In my absence. Frantically attempted to contact her, but my trembling hands made it nearly impossible for me to dial the correct numbers. Obviously, it will go straight to voicemail. I woke up several times that night. I couldn't stop thinking about them being together and had a million questions. My decision was solidified by dawn. Taking the first available flight home, I gathered a carry-on and set out. After I left the house after the funeral, it appeared identical to how it had before. Through the living room window, one could see Dad's beloved chair and notice that his rose plants were meticulously pruned. A gleaming red Porsche, which had never been there before, was the sole distinguishing feature. My mother wore a silk robe that I had never seen before as she opened the door. A look of bewilderment swiftly transformed into wrath on her face. "Amanda, what are you doing here?" There was a chill in her voice. "I noticed your post," I mustered up the courage to declare. "You got married." "No one invited you here," she retorted angrily. Unfortunately, the man from the photo materialized behind her just as she was about to shut the door. He appeared much younger up close. He put his arm around her waist and asked, "Babe, who is it?" "Just my daughter who doesn't know how to call before showing up," Mom said. "Nobody important." The impact was as sharp as a slap. "Your daughter who didn't even know you got married." "My private life is completely out of your hands," she asserted, her chin raised in a brazen manner. "None of mine. Mom, Dad's only been gone 3 months. At that moment, her laughter was a harsh, unfunny sound. "Brad and I have been friends for a long time, my darling. For what reason do you believe I went on all those solitary trips? Those journeys were dull. I thought Brad really brought them to life, didn't you?" As he drew her nearer, he grinned. I was nauseous. "How could you do this to Dad?" My speech was hardly audible. Retorting, "Your father was boring," she snapped back. "Keep working. Keep working. Brad is a master of good times. Please get out of here before I contact the authorities. Right now you're not welcome at my place." "Remember, this is half of my house," I taunted. "Dad left it to both of us." She yelled out, "Get out," as her calm demeanor crumbled. "Leave my home immediately. Your father purchased you a wonderful little existence, so return to your studies." Tears clouding my vision, I retreated. As soon as Brad pulled Mom into a kiss, I heard them both chuckle, and then the door banged shut. The tears stopped flowing when I reached my rented car. How long had she been leading this secret life, with all those excursions and her insistence on taking breaks from her family? She has been betraying Dad and all of us for how long? 1 more month went by. My phone started buzzing when I was in the midst of our dental anatomy lecture. Our longtime next-door neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, was giving us a call. Odd. She left no voicemail. "Amanda, honey," she said with an air of reservation, "moving trucks have pulled up to your house, and I felt it was important that you know. It is being sold by your mother." At first, I couldn't understand a word. "It's not feasible. Half of the house is mine." "Well, there's a sold sign in the yard, and they're clearing everything out." In anticipation of the customary dead air, I trembled as I dialed Mom's number. I was taken aback when she picked up on the first ring. "Well, well, if it isn't my diligent daughter," she said with an air of contempt. "Mom, what's this about selling the house?" The sound of her laughter sent shivers down my spine. "That? Oh my, we did really get a great deal, Brad and I. We're setting sail for Mexico. There you'll find far more pleasant weather." I said, "You can't sell the house," as I attempted to maintain a steady tone. "It's partially mine. One of us is responsible for carrying out Dad's wishes." The way she phrased it, funny thing about that, almost seemed joyful. The process of forging a signature is actually rather simple. The house was sold with just a few test runs. Everything was skewed to one side. You created a fake signature of mine. That is deceitful, Mom. It's illegal." "Oh, please," she said with a hint of scorn. "This wouldn't have been necessary if you hadn't wasted your father's money on your own selfishness. We should be able to enjoy life, Brad. By the way, I just got him the most stunning jaguar. It has brought him immense joy. Mom, he's content with the money you gave him. His entire focus is on that. You little brat, she spat out. You're simply envious because I'm married to a beautiful young man who loves me so much, while you're stuck at home with your dull textbooks and toothpicks. Can you tell me anything about love? Speechless. I know Dad loved you. I whispered. He loved you for 30 years, and this is how you repay him? Your father, she said with an even sharper laugh. Remember your beloved father, who bequeathed you more wealth than I did, who gave me the impression that I was a trophy wife. I have a young, attractive husband that is fun-loving, so that's a prize in and of itself. Well, would you believe it? In Mexico, we do not give a hoot about your American laws. You, your bequest, and anything else are of no concern to us. Let's live the life I've always dreamed of. Mom, please? Amanda, you need to face reality. It's only that you're a lonely, unhappy little girl who envies her mother her joy. How long has it been since you went on a date? You don't seem to be living your life, do you? The call abruptly cut off before I could answer. I listened to the quiet of the classroom as I sat there with my phone still plugged into my ear. Just moments ago, my mom confessed to deceiving us. With great pride, she had pilfered my home, my fortune, and all that remained of my father. Whether you're around or not, life has a strange way of progressing. After Mom vanished to Mexico, I went on to earn my dental degree, finish residency, and get a job at a prestigious clinic. A lovely apartment in a peaceful neighborhood was mine to own, made possible by my father's bequest, and I was finally living the life I had always imagined for myself. When I couldn't get to sleep at night, Mom would occasionally cross my mind. I pondered whether or not she was content with her decisions, and whether or not she thought her young spouse was worth ruining her family for. On the whole, though, I did my best to block out any thoughts of her. Afterwards, my doorbell rang on a typical Tuesday night as I was relaxing following a hard day at the clinic. What I beheld via the peephole caught me off guard. Even though she wasn't dressed like a fashion model, my mother was standing there. The ragged garments this haggard woman wore clearly had seen better days. Her previously flawless locks were beginning to show signs of graying at the roots, and her pricey cosmetics were discreetly absent. In spite of my better sense, I unlocked the door. She muttered, "Amanda," her eyes watering as she spoke. "Baby, please." "What are you doing here?" I was surprised by how forceful my voice came out. With her eyes darting about desperately, she rushed by me into the apartment. "Help me out, please. Brad, Her voice quivered as she struggled to form her words. He made off with it all, regardless of anything. The slight tone of contentment in my voice was impossible to suppress. "The whole sum? Is it the dwelling? What about the bequest?" "He spent it all on gambling and parties in Mexico." As she embraced herself, she appeared frail and vulnerable. After that, he went to a club and met a young man. They bolted from the scene, seized the jaguar, and made off with the meager funds that remained. Satisfied, I stood there and watched as she sobbed. "I returned here using my last $1, she went on to say, "and your mother, and I am sorry for the mistakes I have done. Amanda, may I remain at your side, please?" To our surprise, a laugh erupted from deep within me. "Stay here with me." "Why are you laughing?" A shadow descended across her features. "I don't find this funny. There is no other place for me to go." I spoke up as my laughing subsided, suggesting that maybe someone should have considered that possibility prior to forging my signature and stealing my house. She screamed, "I was wrong," before collapsing headfirst onto my sofa. "Now I understand. Excuse me, I am your mother. Please, Amanda." "No," I whispered softly. "You ceased to be my mother on the day my father passed away, perhaps before to it as well. You are not welcome here." She got to her feet in an instant, her anger quickly replacing her tears. "You ungrateful little, after everything I've done for you." "What you have done to me is everything," I corrected. "Now get out." As her mascara ran down her cheeks, she yelled, "You can't do this to me. I will inform everyone about the awful daughter you are. I'll let them know that you abandoned your suffering mother. How do you suppose your posh medical pals will feel about that?" Calmly retrieving my phone, I listened as my mother's warnings resounded throughout my flat. On occasion, the most effective tools aren't tools at all, but rather the truth when saved at the proper time. "Before you continue with your threats," I said, "there's something you should hear." I hit play, and her old, self-assured, sarcastic voice echoed throughout the room. "Oh, please," she said with a sneer in the recorded version. "This wouldn't have been necessary if you hadn't wasted your father's money on your own selfishness. It becomes clear that forging a signature is not hard at all. With only a few dry runs, the house was sold." My mom's face became pale as she listened to her former self admit to being a phony. She collapsed back onto my couch after her legs gave out. You recorded that call." I paused the recording and stated, "My dad always told me to be ready for anything. He also taught me about consequences, something you never seemed to understand." Her murmured "you wouldn't" betrayed her obvious lack of conviction. "Sure, why not? A federal offense is fraud, Mom. Decades behind bars for those caught forging documents for financial benefit. I have no doubt that this recording would pique the curiosity of the authorities." I noticed genuine terror for the very first time when she fixed her gaze on me. True terror, not deceit, not calculating. "I'll be gone," she announced abruptly. "Yes, I will go. Please, don't." "You mean what? Bring you to justice as if you were only threatening to incite my enemies." I crouched down. "This is what's going to transpire. You're going to leave without ever contacting me again after you walk out that door. No one has contacted you via phone, friend, or messenger. This tape is going to the Federal Bureau of Investigations the moment I hear from you again." Grasping her weathered purse tightly to her bosom, she stood on unsteady legs. At the entrance, she did a final U-turn. "Amanda, I'm still your mother." "No," I whispered gently. "All you are is the mother of my children. Long ago, when my mother began cheating on my father in those resorts, she passed away." She quickly bolted out the door after flinching as if I had hit her. I lingered in my apartment's hushed stillness for quite some time after she departed. After that, I went to my bedroom and retrieved an old photo album, which was one of the few possessions I had saved prior to her selling the property. My parents and I were pictured at the beach when I was a tiny girl, and we were all very happy. I delicately caressed Dad's face. Within a whisper, I expressed my longing for your presence. Afterwards, I placed the album aside and closed it. What followed that day with my mother is a mystery to me. She may or may not have found a place to live. I have no idea whether she ever got her life back together or felt genuine remorse for her actions. I just tell them that we aren't in touch when they ask how she is. To be honest, I'd rather not find out. My mother, the lovely woman in that photo album, has left this world. On that fateful day, an unknown individual arrived at my house. I'm no longer bothered by her.
Hi everyone, I'm Pamela Collins, a 32-year-old interior designer based in Chicago, known for my modern minimalist designs. I first met him at a luxury property showing. Mark Anderson, with his perfect smile and tailored suits, was everything I thought I wanted. He was a successful real estate developer who could charm anyone in the room. I've never felt this way about anyone before. "Pamela, you're different from all the rest," he would say, melting my heart during our whirlwind 6-month romance. God, I was so naive. The red flags were there from day one after our wedding, but love truly makes you blind. His ex-wife, Margaret, was always around, always had some emergency that needed Mark's immediate attention. Baby, she's just going through a rough time. You know how messy divorces can be. He'd reassure me every single time he rushed to her aid. Pamela, darling, that centerpiece arrangement is interesting. Margaret always had such an eye for these things. My mother-in-law, Amanda, quipped during our first family dinner, never missing a chance to compare me to Margaret. Always with that fake smile plastered on her face. Don't take it personally, Rachel, Mark's sister, would say. Mom's just old-fashioned. Later, I would learn Rachel had been feeding Margaret information about every aspect of my life. Thank God for my best friend, Megan. Something's not adding up, Pamela. The way they operate, it's like a well-oiled machine designed to break you down. Megan, being a private investigator, noticed things others missed. Mark still has joint accounts with Margaret. That's not normal for divorced couples, she pointed out, her words echoing in my head when I discovered their shared credit cards. Family gatherings were the worst. Amanda would host these elaborate dinners where Margaret was always invited. She's still family, they'd say. I'd sit there, watching them share inside jokes and memories, while I felt like an outsider. Margaret was just telling me about the charity gala she's organizing. Pamela, dear, what have you been up to, besides decorating? Amanda's subtle digs became more frequent. Then I met Marcus at a business event. You're Mark's new wife. Interesting. Margaret never mentioned he was officially divorced. The look in his eyes told me there was more to the story. The emergencies with Margaret became more frequent. Her car broke down. She needed help with paperwork. She was feeling down and needed support. Pamela, you need to be more understanding. Margaret's been part of this family for 10 years, Mark would say, making me feel like I was the problem. But little did they know, I was starting to see through their perfect facade. Megan was gathering information, and I was keeping detailed records of every incident, every manipulation, every lie. They thought they had me cornered, playing the role of the naive new wife, but they had no idea what was coming. Could you bring us some more tea, sweetie? Amanda's voice dripped with fake sweetness. I walked into the living room, tea tray in hand, and froze. There was Margaret, standing in my wedding dress. The one I'd worn just 8 months ago, posing for the annual family photos. What the hell is going on? My hands shook as I set down the tray. Oh, Pamela, don't make a scene. It's a family tradition, Mark interjected in that condescending tone I had grown to hate. The Anderson women always wear this dress for the spring photo shoot. Family tradition. This is my wedding dress. I bought it with my own money. You're being hysterical, Amanda chimed in. Margaret wore it last year, and Rachel the year before that. Last year? You weren't even divorced then. The room went silent. Rachel quickly grabbed her phone, probably texting Margaret updates about my meltdown. That night, I couldn't sleep. While Mark was showering, I checked our joint accounts. Something wasn't adding up. $5,000 to VA Interior Consulting every month. Margaret didn't even work in interior design. Hey, Em, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. Megan's voice was concerned when I met her for coffee the next day. I need you to look into something. Mark has been making regular payments to a company I've never heard of. Already on it. And Pamela, there's something else. His business dealings are sketchy. Like really sketchy. That evening, Mark's phone buzzed while he was in the shower. A message from Margaret popped up. Miss you, baby. Thanks for handling the dress situation. Your wife's face was priceless. My hands trembled as I scrolled through their conversation. Dinner dates, hotel meetings, joint bank accounts. Pamela, you seem stressed lately. Perhaps this business of yours is too much to handle. Amanda's comment at Sunday dinner made Rachel snicker. I'm just worried about her, Rachel said later, hugging me. You know you can tell me anything. The same Rachel who had been forwarding my private texts to Margaret. I discovered credit card statements in Mark's office, Margaret's shopping sprees, spa treatments, even her rent, all paid for by my husband. Marriage is about trust, Pamela. Why are you going through my things? Mark caught me with the statements. Trust? Like paying your ex-wife's bills behind my back. She's going through a rough patch. You're making something out of nothing. Nothing. Like the hotel charges on your card when you were supposedly at business meetings. You're paranoid. This is exactly what happened with your last relationship. You always create problems where there aren't any. He was trying to make me doubt myself. But I wasn't that naive anymore. I've been documenting everything, the secret payments, the manipulative texts, the gaslighting. You should be grateful. Amanda said at yet another family dinner. Mark is such a caring man, helping Margaret through hard times. Most wives would appreciate such compassion. I smiled and played along, letting them think they were winning. But with every revelation, with every lie exposed, their perfect little world was on the brink of collapse. Megan's investigation was uncovering more dirt than I had ever imagined. They had no idea what was coming. "You're not going to believe what I found," Megan said, spreading documents across her office desk. "Those luxury developments Mark brags about, they're all shell companies. He's been taking investors' money and funneling it through fake construction projects." My hands trembled as I sifted through the paperwork, bank statements, wire transfers, fake contracts, all pointing to millions in fraud. "But wait, there's more," Megan continued, pulling out another file. "I found their divorce records, or should I say, the lack thereof. Pamela, Mark, and Margaret never legally divorced. Their paperwork was never filed." The room started spinning. "So my marriage is technically invalid? They're still legally married." A sudden knock at the door made us both jump. It was Marcus, Margaret's ex. "I've been trying to find the right time to tell you this," he said, settling into a chair. "Margaret's been planning this for months. She never wanted the divorce. This whole thing, getting close to your family, playing the victim, it's all been a scheme to get back into the Anderson fortune." "The Anderson fortune might not exist much longer," Megan interjected, pulling up more documents. "Mark has been embezzling from Amanda's family trust. Millions transferred to offshore accounts, and guess who's been helping him? Rachel. Her signature is all over the paperwork. My sister-in-law wasn't just a spy, she was neck-deep in the fraud." "The property sale in Dubai," Marcus added. "That was their big play. They convinced Amanda to invest her entire trust fund. I had been recording everything, every gaslighting conversation, every manipulation. Hidden cameras in the living room caught Mark and Margaret's secret meetings. My phone recorded Amanda's veiled threats. "You're just confused, Pamela. Maybe you need to see someone about these paranoid delusions." And then Mark's voice played back from another recording. "We need to get you out first," Megan insisted. "I've already contacted my bank. We can move your assets to new accounts they can't access." That night, I quietly packed a go bag while Mark was at yet another business meeting. The hidden camera in our bedroom had caught him and Margaret there just last week. "Everything's ready," I whispered to Megan on the phone. "The cameras are set up in every room. I've backed up all the evidence to secure servers." "The FBI is very interested in those real estate schemes," she replied. "And the IRS has some questions about those offshore accounts." I acted normal at dinner with Amanda, who was as condescending as ever. "These headaches must be so hard for you, Margaret," she cooed across the table. "Thank goodness Mark is here to help." "Of course, Mother. Pamela understands, don't you?" Rachel smirked. I smiled back, thinking about the evidence I had of her forged signatures on trust documents. "Absolutely. Family comes first, right?" Later, I overheard Mark on the phone. "Everything's set for the Dubai transfer once Mom signs those papers tomorrow." I slipped away to text Megan. "It's time. Set everything in motion." They thought they had the perfect plan. The manipulative ex-wife, the controlling mother, the two-faced sister, and my fraud of a husband. But their house of cards was about to collapse, and I would be there to watch it burn. The next morning, I stood up in the middle of Amanda's meticulously planned family brunch. I've called this family meeting because I have something important to share. I stood at the head of Amanda's grand mahogany dining table, my hands steady for the first time in months. The whole family was there: Mark, Margaret, Amanda, and Rachel, all wearing their usual smug expressions. "First, let me congratulate you, Margaret, on your 10-year wedding anniversary." I began, my voice steady and clear. I clicked a button, and their actual marriage certificate appeared on the projector screen behind me. "Still legally married to Mark, I see." "That's ridiculous," Mark started, his face flushing. "Save it," I cut him off. "Here's your attempted divorce filing, never completed, never filed." "Which means our marriage, Mark?" "Completely invalid. Bigamy is still a crime in Illinois." Margaret's face went pale, and Amanda clutched her pearls, her eyes wide with shock. "This is absurd," Amanda sputtered. "Oh, I'm just getting started," I said, turning to face her. "Let's talk about the Dubai investment." Another click showed a series of bank statements on the screen. "Your entire family trust funneled through shell companies. Want to guess where the money really went?" Asterisk Mark would never. Amanda tried to defend, her voice cracking. Show them, Marcus, I called out. Marcus stepped into the room carrying a stack of files, full documentation of the fraud scheme. Margaret's signature is all over everything. She never stopped being involved in the business, did she? I turned to Rachel, my sister-in-law. And you, Rachel? Those forged signatures on the trust documents? The IRS is very interested in those. You can't prove, Rachel started, but I cut her off by pressing play on the security footage. The room filled with the sound of Rachel and Mark discussing the fraud in explicit detail, followed by Victoria admitting to the marriage scam. Amanda's own daughter stealing from her accounts. The FBI is outside, I announced as sirens wailed in the distance. They're very interested in your real estate schemes, Mark. And the IRS is too. Pamela, honey, we can work this out, Mark said, trying to approach me. Like you worked out stealing my identity for business loans? That's federal fraud, by the way. Everything happened fast after that. The FBI stormed in, handcuffing Mark and Margaret. Rachel broke down, confessing on the spot, while Amanda fainted as soon as she saw the real numbers showing her emptied accounts. 1 year later, I'm sipping champagne in my newly expanded design studio. My company, Phoenix Designs, just landed a contract with the Ritz-Carlton chain. The irony? I'm redesigning the same hotels Mark lost in the fraud investigation. Mark is now serving 15 years for multiple fraud charges. Margaret is facing separate charges for bigamy and investment fraud. Their mugshots made quite a splash in the society pages. Rachel lost her job at the investment firm and was barred from the industry. Last I heard, she's working retail. Amanda? She had to sell her mansion after losing everything to Mark's schemes. Now she's living in a modest condo, a far cry from her previous luxury lifestyle. As for me, I just made Forbes' 40 Under 40 list. My story of surviving fraud and building a successful business caught Hollywood's attention, and there's even talk of a movie deal. Sometimes I drive past Amanda's old mansion, now owned by a tech billionaire who hired me to redesign it. I think about that day I served tea while Margaret wore my wedding dress. They thought they were breaking me. Instead, they made me unstoppable. The best revenge isn't just success. It's watching karma deliver the justice they never thought would come. What would you have done if you caught your spouse's ex wearing your wedding dress? Would you have walked away quietly like I initially did, or confronted them immediately? And do you think I was right to gather evidence first, or should I have exposed their scheme sooner?